So welcome. I will re-recite the quote by Charles Fillmore, author of 12 Powers of Man, of which imagination is one of those 12 powers. The infinite mind perfects. It puts life and love into our productions or pictures. Love draws things from the universal, but what gives it the form? Imagination. As you see in your mind, so you become. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so I can see as many screen names as possible. Imagination is the mental capacity for experiencing, constructing, or manipulating our mental imagery. Imagination is responsible for fantasy, inventiveness, creativity, originality, and insightful thought in general, and sometimes for a much wider range of mental activities, dealing with the metaphysical, such as supposing or pretending, seeing as, or acting as if. Metaphysicians define imagination as an interface between body, mind, and spirit. Thought also is included in that, and it uses all of our senses. Imagination is a method for achieving fullest potential, casting light and action into the future. It's a way to develop strategy for evoking change in behavior, in our attitudes, and for evoking change in our body for healing. So I've got another quote for you. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. And that was physicist Albert Einstein. Our knowledge is limited to what we know at any given point in time. However, Einstein is also been credited with having his realization, the first realization about the distortion of time and space by using his imagination. He imagined himself riding on a ray, traveling at the speed of light. A philosopher once said that imagination is superior to the will. Imagination is creative and will is directive. Our imagination and our powers of visualization reside in the subconscious mind. Our willpower resides in our conscious mind. So our conscious brain represents only 1/6 of our brain's thinking power. Our subconscious brain represents 5/6 of our brain's thinking power. Imagination carries with it feeling and conviction. And if we translate what that means, that's life and action. It awakens within the inner forces of nature, and it stirs into action latent powers, which otherwise would never come to the surface. So what does our founder, Ernest Holmes, have to say about imagination? He said, imagination taps the very roots of being and utilizes the same power that brought forth the world. I hope you all are really taking in the gravity of that quote. The same imagination that the Most High God used to bring forth the world, we have available to us to create our own worlds. And Ernest Holmes also said that our limitation is only in our belief. Life can give us a big thing or a little thing. And so I ask you, what do you have the courage to imagine? So be with that question as we go throughout the rest of my comments. Everyone possesses some ability to imagine. In some, it may be highly developed, and in others, it may manifest in a weaker form. It manifests in various degrees, in various people, but like other skills, we can develop the power of our imagination. Imagination makes it possible to experience a whole world inside our minds. It gives us the ability to look at any situation from a different point of view, and it enables us to mentally explore the past as we reflect and the future as we project. Imagination manifests in various forms, such as daydreaming, visions, dreams, and visualization. In our imagination, we can travel anywhere at the speed of light without any obstacles. It can make us feel free, though temporary, and only in the mind, from the tasks and the difficulties and the unpleasant circumstances that we may be living through. A developed and strong imagination doesn't make you a daydreamer or impractical. On the contrary, it strengthens your creative abilities and is a great tool for recreating and remodeling your world and your life. It has a great role and value in our lives. It's much more than just folly, daydreaming. We use it consciously or unconsciously, whether we realize it or not, in our daily affairs. We use our imagination whenever we plan an event, a trip, or we're organizing and planning our work for the week or for the month. Or if we're responsible for putting on a meeting, we are imagining because we're thinking about that meeting before it actually comes to pass. We're planning for it, and planning is a futuristic activity as well. We use it when we write. We use it when we tell stories. We use it when we design our gardens. Imagination isn't limited to seeing pictures in the mind. As I said, it involves all the five senses. And the feelings, once they're there, it really helps to make us commit to and have convictions of what's possible for ourselves. We can imagine a sound, how something tastes, or a physical sensation. For some people, it's easier to see mentally, to have those pictures in their minds. For others, it's taking on more of a feeling nature. What does peace of mind feel like? And you still have to imagine that. So training our imagination gives us the opportunity to combine all of our senses, empowering our mental equivalent of want into what we actually experience. This is a great power, you all, and it can change our lives. Imagination is used extensively in creative visualization and affirmations. It's the creator of circumstances and events. When you know how to work with your imagination, you can make your heart's desires come true. The creative power of imagination has a key role in our ability to accomplish and to attain success in our lives. What we imagine with faith and feelings comes into being. It's the power beyond creative visualization, the power beyond just simply affirming that which we want, and it's the power beyond just positive thinking. This means that we should think in a positive manner about our desires, absolutely. Otherwise, we may create and attract events and situations and people that we don't really want in our life experience. This is what most of us do, however. For some reason, we are hardwired to go negative more often than not. And therefore, we use our imagination incorrectly. Going back to that point about our brains being hardwired towards negativity, I'm talking about worry, you all. Anytime we worry, we are using our imagination, but we're using it against what it is that we say that we want, need, deserve, and or desire. When we worry or when we feel fearful, we're still using our imagination, and we know that the law doesn't discriminate. It's not only going to give you the positive things that you imagine, it's going to give you everything that you imagine. So if we keep visualizing and worrying about negative things, we will eventually attract them. A lack of understanding of the power of imagination is responsible for much of the suffering and the incompetence and the difficulties, unhappiness, and failures that many people experience. For some reason, most people are inclined, as I said, to cast shade and doubt and negativity. They don't, in their subconscious minds or conscious minds, expect success. They expect the worst. And when they fail, they believe, yeah, that was my fate. Fate is against me. If we do not recognize the importance of the power of imagination, we just let it run riot in our lives, then we may never know happiness or success. So let your imagination run riot. And guess what? I guarantee you, your life will be a mess. Control it and visualize only that which you want. Intentionally decide what it is you want to do, be, have, and experience. And you will change your life in that direction, in accordance with your will. So understanding how to use your imagination correctly and putting this knowledge into practice for your own and for the benefit of others, it will put you on the golden path to success, satisfaction, and happiness. So yesterday, I came to the realization that sometimes I impose limits around my imagination. A friend and I were just having a conversation, and so he asked me to imagine giving him the gift of golf, G-O-L-F, for Christmas. And so I was so practical in my response, which meant that I was limiting my imagination. I said, I'd researched the most beautiful golf courses in the world. Well, I've already done that, and I know that most of them are in Scotland, you all. And then I would book your tea time. And if I had the wherewithal, see, that's another limitation. You don't have to have wherewithal in your imagination. You don't have to figure out the how. Imagination is all about the what. But I was getting to the next step about the how. If I have the wherewithal, so I'm limiting the imagination. I'd make the arrangements. I'd, schedule the tea time. I pay for all the travel arrangements. And so I caught myself, however, in that moment, I realized that I was limiting my imagination. Imagination doesn't specify, as I said, the how necessarily. It focuses on the what. It doesn't care about wherewithal. It doesn't care about purpose. What is what the imagination does. It helps us to identify the what it is that we want, we desire. We might even say we need. So I ask you again, what do you have the courage to imagine for your own lives, for your family, for our country, our world, the planet? Because after all, we create the blueprints of what's possible in our own minds. Then the how follows. So seeing all possibilities marks the power of our imagination. Our imagination stands as our own personal laboratory. Here we get to rehearse the possibilities. Here we get to map out our plans. We get to see in our mind's eye that which we want to do, with whom we want to be doing it and sharing our life with. Here in our laboratory, we can visualize seeing ourselves overcome any obstacle and any limitation. Imagination turns possibilities into reality. So in closing, I implore you to cherish your imaginings, your visions, and your dreams. Dream the impossible dream. That's the only way it will ever become possible. As our dreams, our visions, our imaginings are the children of our souls, and they are the blueprints of our achievements. So I leave you with this quote by George Bernard Shaw, literary giant, poet, playwright, winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Literature, says, "You see things and you might say, why? But I imagine things that never were. And I say, why not?" So again, I ask, what do you have the courage to imagine? And so it is.
And so we let it be. Fabulous. Thank you so much. That was deep. That's yes, that's
that took a lot, Reverend Michele.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of information about imagination.
I know. Oh, yes, you did.
I had to kind of reel it in and limit some of it, but there's so much that's out there. And, you know, we may not give a lot of thought to the fact that we can imagine the lives that we want to live and bring those lives to fruition. So you all, you know, just play with it, just imagine, just dream. Because what my daughter and I were talking yesterday, and I was saying that, you know, I've been an avid reader since I was a young child. And what that did for me is it opened up the realm of possibilities, because it, you know, when you read books about other people around the world and you read about people at different stations in life, then you say, wow, you know, that's possible. I can do that. I can be that. I can have that. And so I know that what I have accomplished in my life thus far was well beyond. If I had stayed at that place of what was excellent in my environment when I was growing up, I would not have experienced most of what I've experienced in life. But it was because I was able to daydream and I was able to read based on those things that I read about and imagined, that I did bring those things into my life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And as you were asking the question, Reverend Michele, about what do you dare to imagine? And I imagine, of course, this has been living in me for a couple of years, but now I'm extending the light, I'm broadening the light where Furtheraglow is concerned, and seeing it a worldwide movement. It's now a movement. It's a household name. It's huge. And so I am pushing all the boundaries to have that be a realization.
Good for you. And don't worry about the how, that'll come later. Just worry about the what.
Yeah. You know, sometimes I keep saying, oh, but I don't have the finances for that, and I don't have the manpower for that. No.
Yeah, you're putting limitations on your
limitations on myself. Yes. So, okay. So let's move along with that.
Yes.
I must agree, Marcia. That was deep and refreshing.
Yes.
I'm grateful for the messenger and the message. So what I gather is that I can create the life I want just by imagining it. That's powerful.
Yeah,
That's powerful.
because you know what we teach in the science of mind is that you cannot have anything that you don't have a mental equivalent of. So the mental equivalent is the image that one imagines. And so if you can't see it, you can't conceive it, right? You've heard that expression. So you have to be able to see it in your mind's eye first. And that's the role that the imagination plays. It gives you that imagery.
Yes. So I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
First one is, what's the difference between imagination and a thought?
Well, so our thoughts, again, they are a part of our imagination. So what that means is they work in concert. So you think a thing, and then you imagine the thing, meaning that you're bringing into the thought. See, the thought doesn't necessarily have any imagery, doesn't necessarily have any feeling. But when you use the imagination, you're bringing in the mental equivalent of the thing that you thought, right? And so you're starting to see yourself doing, being, having those things. So it actually advances the thought. And then we use yet another power, and that's for a future talk, and that's will, our own personal will. And so it's the thought, it's the imagery and the feeling, and then it's our will. As I said, our will is directive. Our will is what gives us the capacity and the ability to actually take the necessary steps to bring the thought, the vision, the imaginings into fruition. We have to do our part. So I also mentioned that faith was important, right? So we have to have that underlying faith in the fact that we can do this. And then having the discipline and the tenacity to stay with the dream until the dream becomes a reality is the power of the will. So they all work in tandem to bring about that which we create through our thoughts, be they conscious or unconscious.
Got it. I think you answered the second question, because I was going to ask, what are some practical ways to expand your imagination? You mentioned reading as one of them, and you mentioned faith, having the faith and the discipline. So I think that has answered that question.
And I'm also going to say, give yourselves permission to just daydream. I mean, as a child, I used to daydream all the time, and my mother would kick me. I might be laying on the floor. I remember myself. I'd lay on the floor on my stomach like this, and I'd just be lost in my thoughts. I was just daydreaming. My mom would walk by and, kind of kick me. Come back. Come to the real world. Where are you, girl? And because she knew I was just lost in my daydreams.
Got it. And I guess imagining the right things too, because you said that that's a trap. And I know sometimes that fear and those negative feelings, when you imagine those, that would impact your life negatively. So
yeah, you manifest those things too.
Yeah. So some control is in there. Okay, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Have fun.
Okay. Go
yes,
imagine.
Right.
Go imagining. It's an adventure, right? And as Lavette said, you mentioned, Reverend Michele, we're hardwired to just think on the negative thing. It's like sometimes when I'm doing something and I have this perfectionist archetype, and if I do something, I make a mistake, 3 weeks later, I'm still saying, darn it, why did I do that? It's like,
let it go.
Yeah, let it go. Yeah, tell Mazia that.
Also, I see my life is the way it is because of the things I imagine. And not all of them are positive, I must admit.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, oftentimes we'll imagine the worst case scenario, and then guess what? We experience the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good. And so you said I want to go back to the will. I know you say you plan a future talk on that, but should we say, you said will is directive, and 1/6 of our brain is doing a certain thinking power, and so should I imagine the will as like a leader and a powerful leader of the pack of
The
all
will is
these
a
other
follower.
faculties?
The will is the follower. It's a follower.
The will is a follower?
Imagination is the lead. So, you know, the willpower is what gives you the ability, the tenacity, the fortitude to do what's necessary to bring the imagination or the daydream or the vision into reality. So it directs your activity so that it aligns with the vision or the daydream. It's a follower, not the leader. You imagine first, you have the thought first, right?
Okay.
The feeling first, and then the will is the doer. The will
Picks
helps
up
you
on that. Okay.
to do what needs to be done.
Okay. So first you have the imagination, like I imagine. And by the way, I didn't realize that was my imagination thinking about these every Sunday morning meetings. So now I know. So the imagination and the thought fashions the meeting, and then the will picks up on that and make it happen.
Yeah,
Or-
it directs your behavior, it directs your action, it directs your activity towards realization of the thought or the imagining.
Yeah, those faculties certainly need some delving into, because I know there are quite a few. Which one of them is faith?
Yeah, so it's one of the 12, and there are many more, but the ones that get emphasized in New Thought are the 12 powers, of which imagination is one, and of course faith is one as well, and will is one as well.
Just
Everyone is off in their imagination.
So you say, I was trying to write down while you were saying something another travels at the speed of light. Is that the imagination or the
imagination?
The imagination travels at the speed of light.
Yeah, because the imagination knows no limits. There's no time, there's no space in the imagination, right? And so again, the theory of relativity that was realized or recognized or acknowledged by Einstein, he was using his imagination. He imagined that he was traveling on a ray of light at the speed of light. And then what came to him was his formula, his theory of relativity.
Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't matter how weird it may seem to us now in our imagination. All we have to do is keep riding that light, that atom or whatever proton that is. Just keep riding that.
Riding that ray of light, and you
riding that ray of light. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Yes, thank you so much, Reverend Michele, for that soul-searching message, and for all of us who participated in that.